Hello! Erica here. I am here today to do my Readorama Wrap Up. If you had not already heard about it, Readorama was a week-long readathon that ran from the 8th to the 14th of March. And it was a lot of fun. There was a lot going on Twitter and people making updates on YouTube and on their blogs and things of that nature. So if you didn't join in this time and you like readathons, I highly recommend you give it a go if they do it again. And we're going to talk about what I read that week. So I did not finish 7 books, which was the goal, but I got really close. I did like 5.5. There were actually 2 whole days during the week that I just didn't read. I actually had a really long work week, and so there were a couple days where I just couldn't get it in, but I'm happy with what I did do. So let's talk about it. So the first challenge was to read a book from your TBR jar or a book that someone else picked out for you. And if you watched my TBR video, I just used the internet to do this and generated a random number for my TBR shelf. And the book that was picked for me by the internet was Bobcat and Other Stories by Rebecca Lee. I did manage to finish this, which is good. There were only 7 stories in it. And so I just read 1 a day. I actually think I had to read 2 in the last day because I got behind. But it was really good. I gave it 4 stars. There were a couple of stories that fell flat in this collection for me, but overall, I feel like Rebecca Lee's writing is really beautiful, and this is her debut collection, so I'm looking forward to seeing what she puts out in the future. The next challenge I'm going to talk about was the one to read a contemporary. I also, in my TBR video, talked about how I don't know what that really refers to. It's very vague for me. So I read This Is How You Lose Her by Junot Diaz. I also managed to finish this in its entirety last week, and this is another collection of stories. If you're familiar with Junot Diaz's work, this and his other 2 major works, The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde and Drown, which is another collection of stories, all kind of follow the same character named Junior and his family in some cases. And this was very interesting. I think I might do a full review on this because I have some things to say. The next challenge was to read a book with the letters R-A-M-A in the title and or author's name. And I kind of cheated on this a little bit. So I got Alex and Ada Volume 2 in the mail last week in the middle of the readathon and had to read it immediately, and I did, and it was just as good, if not better, than the first volume. But as far as R-A-M-A go, we have an R in Sarah, an A in Sarah, we have an M in volume, and that's where I think I'm cheating a little bit. Then there's like another A in Jonathan. So it still technically counts, and it was really awesome, and I'll talk about it in my next comics reviews video. The next challenge was to finish a series, and so I decided I was going to read the complete Persepolis and just read the entire series. If you do not already know, this is a graphic memoir about the author Marjane Satrapi. I have no idea if I'm saying that right. It's about her life growing up in Iran during the Iranian Revolution, and it was really, really good. So I highly recommend that you get into this if you haven't already, and I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. There was a challenge to read a book with flowers on the cover. I didn't do that one. I was going to read The Women of Brewster Place, which was cheating anyway because it doesn't have a flower on the cover. It has a tree on the cover, which is the same thing, but it's fine. I didn't get to it. Sorry. The challenge after that was to read a diverse book. I was going to read All Backs Returned by Merrick Lausko, which I talked about in my TBR video, but instead I finished Hard-Boiled Wonderland and the End of the World by Haruki Murakami. I had already started this. I was actually like halfway through already before the readathon began, but I could not put it down. I had to finish it, so I'm counting it, even though I didn't read it in its entirety. It's a 400-page book. Like, it's fine. I still read a decent chunk of it. This was amazing. Love this man. I don't know if this is my favorite of his so far, but it's up there. I don't think it's talked about enough. I don't think enough people read this. I think people are more focused on Wind Up Bird Chronicle, Norwegian Wood, and like 1Q84. But I think this is just as good as any of them, so highly recommend this. And I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. And then last thing was to read a book with green on the cover. Technically, there's green on the cover of This Is How You Lose Her. So technically, I completed the challenge. But I had originally picked out The Color Master by Aimee Bender, which was on my TBR for March anyway. I did get most of the way through this. I actually finished it on the 15th, so the day after the readathon was over. But I did read most of it during the readathon, so it halfway counts. Which is why I said 5.5 books. So, this was a great collection. Definitely I'm going to talk about this more later. And I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. So overall, not a bad week. I actually gave every book that I finished 4 stars, which is a great readathon week. I've learned some things about myself and readathons and how I behave during them, and I might do a whole discussion about that in the future. But I had a lot of fun, and thank you to the lovely ladies who hosted and everyone who participated. And if you have anything to tell me, you can do so in the comments, as always, and I will see you soon. Bye!